All right. Good morning, everybody. So we're going to be starting chapter 3 today. If you haven't already grabbed your packet, please make sure you do so. It's by the door on the stool with the gray top thing. So we're going to learn about journalizing transactions. So we had our T accounts, and now we are going to bring the T accounts into what is generally accepted accounting principles, or the rules that govern accounting. So we're going to learn how to start doing that today. So your packet is quite long, I know that, but there's a lot of information here that will be helpful for you, including the thing we're going to start with. So if you want to turn your packet to page 1, so it's on the back side here, we're going to start talking about source documents. So there are many different source documents that go with accounting. The first one that we're going to talk about is a check. So this is any time that you pay for something or there's a transaction involving cash that we are having put out of our business. So whether they say use cash, it's always going to be labeled as a check. So there's two parts to actual checks in accounting. There's the actual check that gets sent out that tells you what's it for, who is it going to, how much it's worth. You write it out in the numbers, what it's actually for. And then in this case, because we're a sole proprietorship, the actual owner is going to sign. Now, the other part of a check is the check stub, because once this is gone, we need to be able to prove that we sent this money out. So that is what the check stub is for. We record how much, when, who, and what's it for. And then all of these other things we will learn more about at a later date. But at this time, just know that that is kind of what we're going to be worrying about. You won't have to worry about filling this out until chapter 6 through 8. Now, the reason why we have source documents in the first place is to prove we did what we did, or prove the transaction that occurred. We can't just take people's word for what they did. There has to be documentation. You got to prove it, right? You don't say something is true unless you can actually prove it or have proof for it. Same thing in business. Now, this again is in your packet. Checks will be used for anything that we pay cash for, and it'll always say paid cash for. But again, it's a check. So when we pay cash for insurance supplies, if we pay cash to the owner, if he withdraws that for personal use, if we pay cash on account, so the accounts payable, account, or any type of expenses, your advertising expense, your rent expense, any type of expense that we have for our business. Now, there's definitely key parts to these checks: the date, who it's written to, the amount, what's it for, and then the signature. And here's an example of a transaction that we've seen many times over. The only thing different that you will see now is this part right here, and that's our source documentation that we will be putting into our general journal, which you will find out about in the next video. Your next source documentation is sales invoices. So this is when we sell services on account. This is when we are sending this to somebody else to pay us. So this is, again, if we sold services on account to a certain company, we're going to fill out this invoice. So that way they know what they owe us and how long they have to pay and the date that it goes out. And we also have to label what number invoice it is. Again, this is all going to be done for you. Nothing really new here. We're just adding on the source documentation. And if we have a sales invoice, we're going to label that in our general journal as S1. If you flip the page, your next thing that we are going to be talking about is the memos. So anytime we buy something on account, we fill out a memo letting whoever it is that deals with this that we bought supplies on account, who we bought it through, how much it is. The owner has to sign it, and then the date in which it was purchased. So this is only time we use this is when we purchase something on account. So our account's payable for us, okay? Now, key parts: date, description, and memo number. Our example is buying things on account. from a certain company for a certain dollar amount, and our source is an M1. Next is your calculator tape. So anytime we make cash sales, typically, again, your example, received cash from sales. We've seen this for multiple units now, again, but now we need the source documentation. It's calculator tape. It's labeled as a T, whatever number it is in our packet, it'll actually tell you. Last one that we have here is a receipt. So a receipt is given written acknowledgement that we have received cash. Just like if you go to Walmart, you get a receipt. If you go out to dinner, you get a receipt. There's the customer and there's the merchant copy. Same thing here. So we will typically use this if we've received cash on account. So if Office Depot, if we received cash from them paying off what they owe us, we would have this and we would send a receipt. Or if the owner personally puts money into the business, they will get a receipt back. So that way there's proof. There's got to be a money trail for everything that we do in accounting. Example, we received cash from owner and we have our form, which is our receipt, whatever number it is, which is listed.